You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is a place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. Now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, happy Tuesday, everybody. Another beautiful day in Burleson area. Today we have Burleson School Board candidate, place 4, Dallas Owen. Most of y'all probably know her from Pathway and other places. But you also work outside of Pathway, don't you?
Yes, sir. I don't even work at Pathway.
All right, I know, but they know you as, the pastor's wife. Like,
Right.
Like they know my wife is the pastor's daughter and that kind of thing. But you have a job.
I do have a job.
So where do you work at?
I work at Regency Office and Promotional Products.
Where's that?
It is actually we started this business in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
Same year we moved to Burleson.
Mm-hmm.
My mother and stepfather, this was actually their vision. So they opened up the office in Dallas in 1986.
You drive to Dallas every day?
I did for a while, yes.
I do it twice a week, and it's a beating, and all that traffic. But anyway, we're going to talk about your visions for the district, your motivations for running, and your background, and maybe what you've been hearing as you've been doing your campaign and whatnot. We've got a lot to talk about. The school system is growing, and there's those pains that
Definitely.
go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's better to have a growing school system than not, but still there's issues you have to deal with.
Yes.
Well, but before we do that, let's make sure we say hello to all the people that make this possible. Thank you, Daniel, CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. You know them, do you?
I do. They... Daniel and his wife actually open up their box.
Mm-hmm.
We have did you teach Clinton Tebbs?
No, I don't remember.
Okay.
Most names I remember. Sometimes there's a few that sneak in under the radar, but I had both Daniel and Amber.
Okay, well, he and Amber open up their box every year, and we do a memorial CrossFit WOD in honor of Clinton Tebbs.
Okay. Well, that sounds
They do
pretty
it free
neat.
of charge, so yes.
Well, that's
with
them.
that.
I've known them for a long time, and they've always been exceptionally generous people. Here, I'm going to do. Oops, I got to turn this down. I'm going to I want to share this with the various groups we have to my feed, and also it'll be shared to about 6 or 7 different platforms, including whatever you want to share to. Come on, boom, boom, boom. There's one more. Where is the other one? Where's Sarah Carlson's one? I'm trying to find it on my. She's doing the municipal matters, but I can't find it right now. What is the matter? Oh, there it is. I just spun right by it. Okay, now I'm good. Okay, and of course you may be familiar with the next sponsor. It's kind of interesting. This is Shandy, of course, your opponent, and I've been very pleased with how both of y'all it's like we're going to do our campaigns and we're going to wish each other the best and support whoever wins.
She's a nice lady.
Yes. And she was very complimentary about you the last time that she was on the show. But here I'm going to talk about real estate. I mean, that's what she pays for. But the real estate, if you want to move in and around this area, she's the one that you need to talk to because she knows the real estate. I have her on fairly often just to talk about real estate in Burleson and whatnot. So thank you, Shandy. Also, thank you to Our Place Restaurant. I know you know this place.
Yes, I do.
Everybody knows Otto.
Oh, yes. We all know Otto.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's a famous character. A character is the word for it, too. I do a lot of my networking stuff there, and if I do podcast-related business, I do it there because I don't have an office or anything. And he just cracks me up because his son and Lana, his manager, they're running around serving people, and he just walks around like Dean Martin, hey, how you doing?
He is Dean Martin.
Yes,
Yeah.
And so, but it's a great place, great food, all that.
A lot of people, I think, conduct business there.
Oh yeah, I see it. And another thing that I've talked about with Allard, he never even noticed, but I said I've walked in there many, many times, and it's a very diverse crowd, and I think that's a testimony to the comfort level that people feel.
Yes.
When you see a wide ranging of genders and races and ages and all this other stuff, that's a compliment to your business.
I think so too.
And also another one, are you a cigar smoker by any chance?
I have never tried a cigar.
Well, if you ever got the hang of it, or Rick wanted one, there's the place to get it. Wild Cigar on the standard. Wild Cigar and Culture has this huge humidor, and a lot of people are like, they don't know what they want, and they'll go there and they have trained tobacconists to help you with that. And has big timers from the cigar industry come by and do promotions there. Also, it's a great place to do business there. It's quiet. You can think. You have a decent drink. You can get stuff done. I was there about 2 weeks ago visiting with a BNI colleague, and it wouldn't be blown out by speakers, or the ball game or whatever. It was jazz in the background. It's all nice. It's a very nice place,
Yeah.
and y'all can get away with it.
Well, I did see they're about to have a ribbon cutting.
Yes,
Chamber.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are. Chris also is a former student, and he graduated 24 years ago. And it's good to see him as a successful businessman.
Yes, I remember Chris.
You
Chris
remember?
Boom, right?
Right, exactly. Okay.
I do.
When did your oldest graduate exactly? I remember the names, the years kind of go up.
99.
Yeah, he was 98.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, thank you to Tiffany Nico over at Local Life. Now, you know Tiffany Griffin.
Yes, I do.
You should, since Rick did her last ceremony.
Yes.
Now, and I do mean last, Tiffany. That's your last time you get married. And
Jimmy's a great guy, too.
yes, you know them well. And it was a great wedding. It was a very country wedding, and with the dogs and the hats. And, I thought, that's kind of nice, a nice hometown wedding.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I'd been in Pathway's new facility. I'd been in there when my son was smaller and they played basketball, upward and all that business. But I hadn't been in your facility
In the
until
center.
Yeah, boy, it's nice. But anyway, her magazine's coming out next week, and she has all the not just the ads, but also the events that are going on. In the center of the magazine, it has both school and city related events coming up. So check that out. Also, Southern Gym. Now Rick needs to take you here. Okay. Now my wife works here, so I got a vested interest. Now she works part time. She retired from the school system about 3 months ago, and she been working with Gala Moores, the owner, during the summer and now more consistently, and have really nice jewelry. So take him up there, or if you go by yourself, you can make a wish list and then send him.
Just send it to him. Just text him.
Yes, it's waiting for you.
Yeah.
But Gala knows jewelry, and also if you got some to be repaired or refitted or cleaned, whatever, she can do all of it.
Well, I do, actually.
Well, that's a good place to do it. She does really good work, and in about a month, early April, they're going to be down on the bottom floor with much expanded inventory. So it's going to be right next to American Revelry.
Right. I've seen them. I've seen their sign.
So run on up there if you have, grandma's old ring that you want to clean up or whatever. Hot Works, Michelle Humphrey. Do you know her by any chance?
I don't.
Okay. Well, she knows a lot of people. So anyway, Michelle runs the Hot Works, which is an infrared workout system. So you're working out with 11 different types of workouts with an infrared system that maximizes the workout by minimizing the stress on your joints and muscles. And it's really good for people with like arthritis or arthritic kind of conditions, so it reduces the inflammation, that kind of thing. So she has one here and one in Coppell, it's on 731 right next to Chicken Salad Chick. I bet you know what that is.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Every time I drive by to visit, do a little sponsor care with Hot Works, there's always a line.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, but you get she gets a lot of business from them, actually. So they'll go work out and then go get a sandwich. So it works out. And my insurance agent, Texas Farm Bureau, Melissa Harmon, at 682-804-0534. She can help you out with insurance. She can check out your plan, see if you're saving money, see if you can get the maximization you need. And she did that for me, and she can do it for you. So 682-804-0534. Do we have any nonprofits running today, Taylor?
We don't. They're all expired.
Past. Yeah, we were doing stuff for Harvest House. I guess.
Okay.
I think it went. I think it was the deadline was Friday, and Jennifer will be on next Monday. Yeah, the 27th, and we'll talk about did they get enough money or not.
Oh, right. Boy, what an expansion she has going.
Oh boy, and they were raising money for that refrigerator unit. Big, it's like $30,000 bought and installed, and they were about a third of the way there, so they were on a big fund drive, and I hope she at least got a good piece of that taken care of, because that's a very valuable thing.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Well, I guess from the very start, we should say, most people know you. They certainly know Pathway, but for those who may not, what's your background here in Burleson?
Okay. We moved here in 1986. My oldest son was 6 when we moved here.
Was it to take to church St. Matthew's at the time?
Well, yes. And then Ricky actually was trying to get his Master's of Divinity at Bright at TCU. So, yes. So, both same time. So we moved to Burleson. At that time, Justin started first grade. And so that's 36 years. Wow. It did not take long.
No, it doesn't.
But we had 2 other sons, Jacob and James, who both went to school in Burleson. You had all 3 of them.
And they're very fine young men. And I don't mean that just to be nice. I mean, I'm saying it legitimately. They were fine young men in class, and for we've been talking about, they've done well for themselves, and it's a good thing.
It is, but parenting's a hard job.
Yes,
No
it
doubt
is.
about that. But my pay job is that I work for Regency Office and Promotional Products, and which I've done for 36 years as well. I started out working part-time and then moved to full-time, and I am, as it says, if you've seen on my sheet, I'm the treasurer, controller, I'm the bean counter.
It's a family-owned business, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So, you've had a long experience with this community, both in ways a lot of people may not have had the opportunity being, part of a church like, first St. Matthew's Presbyterian and then became Pathway, when about 15 years ago?
Yes, it's been a while.
Yeah. So it's, us old timers still remember it that way.
St. Matthew.
Yeah.
Yes.
But as far as, you've had a lot of dealings with the people of this community in various ways. Do you think that's going to enable you to do well for the school board?
Well, I think that I was trying to remember, if to go back and remember the different areas where I've been involved. And I'm sure you remember 5th quarter.
Oh, yeah, I do. After the football games, yes.
Yes, which Justin was a sophomore on the varsity, and they had already started having meals at people's homes. Well, as you said, Burleson was growing, football team's growing, and so 5th quarter moved to, it was in St. Matthew. So being up there with those kids every Friday night, those 1 a.m. to get home after cleanup on Saturday.
Right.
But PTA, whatever the term was that year.
Well, they kind of changed names a couple times, yes.
Team mom, room mom from all 3 of them. And as you can tell, there's a wide age gap between Justin and James. About 10 years.
Yeah, I was thinking 10, 11 years. But when a lot of times I remember in a general way more than specifically when they graduated or whatever. I'm just, as I get older, it gets more of a mush. But I remember all those things, and you were involved. And of course, you saw your 3 young men go through the system, and I hope you were relatively pleased. So,
absolutely, yeah.
I guess the question I would ask you is, what motivates you now to run? Because now that your boys are done, you don't have that direct tie, but you still obviously care about what's going on. So, what's motivating your run?
I think that's kind of a multi-dimensional answer here.
You got time. It's all yours.
Actually, because even though James graduated 13 years ago, we have continued to teach what we call a life class. And it's just for seniors in high school. Because we're talking about the next phase of your life is going to be different. It's going to change. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like, or what it might look like, knowing that each of you are not taking the same path. So we discuss Dave Ramsey, time management, how to cope with stress. What do you do when things don't go your way? Life is not fair. How are you going to cope with that?
Right.
So we've continued to teach that with Jeff and Lori Ogden. We've taught that class. And just staying engaged. And I'm not sure if you know, Jacob is an assistant principal at Burleson High School now.
I did not know that.
He is.
How long has this been going on? Is it this first year, second year?
No, he graduated and he went to a high school in Carrollton. And then spent a year at high school in Rice, and then came back
Rice
to BHS.
I know where Rice is.
You know where Rice is,
yeah.
yes.
My parents live in Corsicana.
Yes. So we spent many a Friday night watching Rice play football.
And now he's an assistant principal at BHS.
He is.
Wow, that's interesting. I did not know that. Maybe I need to pay more attention. How does he like it?
He likes it. I mean, he's so glad to be back here. And
back home?
Yes. Yeah. His wife, you might have had her as a student.
What's her maiden name?
Foster. Summer Foster.
Well, I knew Summer Foster. I guess I'm getting my boys confused. Justin is the vice principal. Is that it? No, Jacob is.
Middle one.
You know what? Now that we recall, I got my Jacobs mixed up. We were talking about before the show. I said he was
Yes.
fairly quiet, and he said, "You were talking about the same guy?"
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I got him confused with another Jacob, who was quiet. Now,
Yes.
now it's
I'm
coming
thinking
together.
my Jacob wasn't quiet.
No, he wasn't. No,
No.
not at all. He was
No.
much more outgoing. So
Yes.
I'm sorry. I got it. This is what happens when you have a lot of students and they all mush into one big
I can't imagine.
collage. And
There's so many.
no, I remember Jacob well. In summer, of course, yes, they were both, and they were
Yes.
high school sweethearts.
They were.
And God bless Summer. Her grandmother just passed, Maddie Foster, who is a wonderful woman.
She was a great lady.
A lot of people in BHS would remember Maddie from she worked in the library and various other capacities. So, and I hope Summer's doing okay. But
Well, yeah, she's sad, but Maddie. We honored Maddie yesterday. And what a great lady.
Well,
impactful lady she was.
Is Summer still the softball coach at BHS?
She's still the softball coach and teaches chemistry.
Yeah, and it's surprising. You think, wow, that's odd having a husband and wife team on campus. That's actually fairly common. In Burleson, my wife and I worked together at BHS several years, and there was like 3 or 4 married couples when I joined. I thought, well, it's a small town, it's no big deal. A coach and his wife or something like that. But anyway, I'm taking up your time.
No.
But the motivation of running, most people that run for office feel like there's something that needs to be looked at, continued, developed, whatever you want to use. What are those things for you?
I sit on the board for Texas Health Hughley, and off of that board there is an offshoot council that's called a Faith Community Council, and they sat down. It's an initiative actually from Texas Health, and sat down and assessed what are the needs within the community, community-wide, not just Burleson, but the area. What are some needs that are here that need to be met? And overwhelmingly, one that stood out and is so apparent was depression and anxiety for kids. And the statistics were really astounding and eye-opening to see how the curves have gone on the graph from here in 2010 to the trajectory just keeps moving onward.
Right.
And what do we do? I mean, I know things are being done, but how else do we go in? Because it's not just the students that are coming in feeling depressed or anxious. It's the teachers too.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, I can tell you.
I'm sure you can firsthand, yeah.
Well, it is a different environment than when I had your sons. There were things that Jacob has to deal with now that I didn't have to deal with when his class was going through so much. You have to deal with the social media much more. You have to deal with the bullying aspect of social media, certainly. You also have to deal with a more intrusive federal government. We were talking about that before the show, is that the federal government, particularly under Mr. Obama and Mr. Biden, have gotten very involved in local education issues, and not to the better in most cases. And so for the teacher, they have a harder job now than they did 10 years ago. And so you're talking about depression. What would you like to see BISD do to address that?
Well, I think that they are addressing it.
I know they
have hired, extra social workers, and I think there is training. I think that there are certain partnerships that can be developed and implemented to help the school system. But I think ultimately we need to, as our teachers are coming in and they're walking in with the same, a lot of them the same mental aspects as the kids are walking in. So how do we help both of them? How do we do that?
That's a hard question. As a former teacher said, well, he said we can pay them more, but who doesn't want more money? But that's not going to solve everything. I think if I could say, and Jake could probably tell you this as well, if they had better academic and discipline responses from the kids, because people talk about, well, we don't have enough discipline in schools. Well, you don't have enough discipline at homes either. Don't be sending us this business that we're not doing our job, because you're not doing your job either. And see, that's the elephant in the room, is that when it comes to educational issues, is the parents' responsibility. And so that's a difficult topic, because we're trying to address the symptoms, but the root cause quite often occurs off campus.
Yes. Yes.
Because what would happen if James came home and you'd gotten a phone call from one of his teachers saying he was acting up in class? There'd be some consequences, right?
There would be.
That didn't happen as often as it used to. I'd be able to call up back in the 90s in particular. I'd call up a parent and say, "Hey, your boy is acting up." "Oh, don't worry about it, and I'll take care of it." And the next day, he said, "What did you tell my parents?" Like, and all this other stuff. Now it's like, "Hey, call them. Here's the number." Yeah. And as far as the academic aspect of BISD. Sorry, I got to look at the whole system. What do you think is some of the best parts of BISD?
I think BISD has really looked at and seen all kids don't learn the same.
Mm-hmm.
They don't learn the same. So how do we meet the kids where they are? Mm-hmm. When you know that each student, each person actually does not start at the same beginning. We're not born into the same type of family situation. They're all different. Mm-hmm. So acknowledging that, knowing that, they have come to the table, and we have different schools mm-hmm. that actually are implemented for different situations, different types of learning.
Yes, I've gotten better aware of that. About the last 4 months, I've been having once a month a show with the BISD representative. Michaela Hill will send me somebody.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like last Thursday, had Courtney Peets from the Health Services, and we kind of touched on this emotional health issue there. Mm-hmm. So I do know they're doing something. But we have, I've had the director of that early college program, Mr. Hickman, and then I had Ken Ozzie. I had Lindsay Bird, who did the school choice, and I've been real pleased. And I've said this many times to them, is like when I was in 123 over at BHS, that's all I thought about. And what's the matter with those people down the street? Are they crazy or not? And now that I'm doing this, I get a lot more global view. But you do have a question from Sarah Carlson, who is very active in this show. Thank you very much. I think a focus on mental health is an excellent idea, especially when getting to the root. What is most challenging is not something with the board or staff scope. They can't make the parents parent differently. Amen to that. Mm-hmm. They can't make children behave appropriately, but giving staff the tools to cope with the demands is a great idea. When you talk about giving them the tools, or she is, or, are you talking about like counseling for teachers and things of that nature?
I'm talking about exploring. Mm-hmm. Asking them, what do you need? How can we best serve you? What does that look like?
Well, I think one of the things I would suggest, if you ask me that question while I was still there, is a counseling opportunity. Okay. Because I've not made a secret of the fact that I had counseling over my 28-year career. There's a couple of times I had counseling, not just like a one-off session, but like for 3, 4, 5 months or more, for various reasons, because a lot of that stress goes home with you, and that's a real problem. And that was my problem about a decade ago. And I wish I could unwind that, but I can't. But I did start counseling, and I think if the school not so much provided the counselor, but maybe some supplemental subsidy for it, that would be an idea.
Okay.
I don't know if they do that or not, but I don't think they do.
Well, and maybe. If not, then is there an entity? Is there an enterprise? Is there a health organization that would come in and partner and say, we will help fund this, either with people or dollars?
Well, my counseling was with Promises, which is, of course, associated with First Baptist.
Yes.
And I wonder how
Promises.
That might be the church-state issue might come up. But I do know there's some locally. I'm sure you're aware of them being with Texas Health, so... But I don't know. That's another question for Dr. Jimerson someday.
Yeah. Well, I believe that they're aware of it. Absolutely. They're hiring social workers. I do. I think we need to be very supportive of our teachers and our kids, knowing that this situation is there, and that statistically what we're looking at is that kids are not coping as well with stress. And how do we help the teachers, help them, and how do we help the kids too?
And this is a universal thing. We were talking about before the show that I taught 3 years at a private school, and they had the same issues. Yeah. In fact, in some ways they were worse, because That's one reason they put them in a private school, their parents, because they had the wherewithal to do it. And a lot of these kids don't have that, either, they're moderate income or, single parent or whatever else.
Right.
And it's tough. And I tell you, the age it just really is hard. It's between 8, 9 into the 10th grade. It's brutal. I would never teach 9th grade again. When I got them, they were juniors and seniors, and some things have been worked out with maturity, but they still had issues.
Oh, it's tough to be a teenager.
It is. It's harder now, as we were talking about. What would you like to see BISD do academically? Is there anything that you think that we're, as a district, not doing as much as we should, or like to see us do even more or better, or what?
As far as
academics, curriculum,
like what?
Like kind of courses that you like to see would consider to be necessary taught. You mentioned one like in your church, the seniors.
Right, which is open to anybody. You don't have to go to our church to attend that. But I think life skills are, you have to have the hard skills of life. We have to learn how to read and write, and we do. But we need those life skills too that teach us how to manage money, manage time. How do we cope with stress? Yeah.
Here's the thing, a lot of that stuff you mentioned was part of the economics curriculum for non-AP economics. But there's still a very severe time crunch. And by the time you got to that unit, which is almost near the last of the year, you got like 6 days of class left or maybe less. And you get these kids are coming in for a landing, so to speak, and all this. It was hard to get a good unit of personal finance in, even though it's required by the state. I wonder if a class just for that. I know our friend Susie and others teach life skills type classes, but there's so much asked of them too. I've seen their curriculum, and and they have to deal with these very mature subject matters. It's tough, So, as far as like expanding the CTE programs, we have that game school. We have a lot better computer classes than we had 10 years ago. But sometimes I think we do it at the expense of trades. Do you think we do enough in the area of trade education?
Well, I think that depends on what defines that. Is culinary trade? Because I know that
it is.
The culinary school, actually, next week, we're having a business over breakfast, the chamber is, and the culinary school is catering our breakfast.
Well, Gabrina Daniels is here at the first show of the month to do chamber stuff, and she was very excited about it. And then we got frozen out in January, but here, and she was talking about the culinary. I'm talking about like HVAC, plumbing, electrician work. I don't know if we offer that. I don't think we do. I know Hill College does. But, I remember my high school 40 years ago, which was in a fairly well-to-do district at the time, and had those kind of trade arts be offered.
Yeah, I do see that they're, working more toward like the health skills. So that when you graduate, I don't know if you could be a phlebotomist, but you would at least have some experience with it. And I think that's exciting.
You can go through the early college program and you come out there with the associates, and you can jump right into the Hill program and come out of there in LVN. I know Courtney Peets was telling me about some of that now, because they cooperate with that program and whatnot. So as far as when you do your campaign stuff and you're getting messages on Facebook, what are the parents telling you is their concern?
What I have heard mostly is that we need to make sure that we keep our teachers. We need our teachers. We need our teachers to be here and to be present. I did hear someone tell me a few weeks ago that their child had I think she said they were on their 4th teacher
What grade level?
of the year. I think he's sixth grade.
Okay.
So I think keeping the teachers here. And then I think people overall are concerned about that term bullying. It's a broad brush. It covers a lot. What is defined here? What is bullying here? What is bullying here? And what are we doing about it? And as you said, going back to the parent, I mean, how does that child start out every morning?
Right.
And so I think encompassing that in, gosh, what's happening with kids.
Well, back when we were younger, when we were in school, bullying took place, but it was a different kind of bullying. It was like just some jerk being difficult or whatever else, and you can go tell the teacher, and the teacher would straighten them out, and that'd be the end of that mostly. But now it's such an ongoing thing because of social media,
Right.
and media in general. Is that it just these poor kids don't seem to get a break from that. And then we were talking about that earlier with the depression. So, but parents are telling you this as well, not just your own observations. So that's interesting. They must have. I've heard that from a couple. The one I hear when people want to talk to me about school is the rules make it so much more difficult to apply accountability standards, both academically and otherwise, because of federal rules and some, the state of Texas is not innocent of this either, because they grade our schools, and one of the grades is, so you have too many dropouts or not enough kids graduate on time, then we get dinged for it. So you have to do this balancing act between holding them accountable, getting them across that stage, even if some of those people really don't really deserve to be going across that stage.
Yeah, I think that's a balancing act, because there are so many things that are mandated that
more than you might think. I mean, a whole lot more in the last 15 years than when I started. 1988, we had TEKS and we had this and state management of some sort, but not like we do now. It's much, much more intense. But do you visit with a lot of teachers as well as parents? Or
I do visit with teachers.
Okay.
I work out at Hughley. And I have teachers in my classes.
And they track you down, say, since you're running, they're tugging your sleeve, said, let me tell you all about
Actually, this was before they just tell me, some of them I've known for a long time. I mean, some of them were my kids' teachers. And so I've known them, and I cannot call them by their first names. You are Mrs. to me. Still.
Right, I get that too. And it's like, hey, you're 40 years old. I'm sorry, Mr. Allard, I can't do it.
Yes.
And I did the same thing. You may not remember David Dunn. I do, from Hughes Middle School.
I do remember that. Yes, I do remember that name.
Okay, he retired, 30 years ago, but he's still around. He's at our church, and I still can't call him David. I'll call him Mr. Dunn. Mr. Dunn. And that's just a sign of regard for him.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm getting off track. Do you have any kind of conversations with other board members? I mean, do they encourage you with this, or encourage you to look into that, or anything like that?
I do. I mean, I know several of the board members.
I know they're going to be. I know they're going to be impartial publicly and all this, and of course that's fine. But I know that they're very helpful people. They would, they would treat you and Shandy equally in terms of support. But as far as if you talked with them some, they say, here's some things that we like to look at in the next year or 2 years, whatever.
Well,
we got a lot of issues in front of us.
Mostly, I'm talking to teachers and parents.
Well, that's a good thing. How would a parent in particular contact you? Say, I got a question for you, or I got a issue. What kind of method do you have available for them to contact you?
Well, they can reach out on the Facebook post, but also I am going to have a meet and greet.
Where at?
At Jennifer Heron State Farm.
Well, there's a connection there with Susie somehow. Yeah, I know Miss Heron. I know and Blake. Of course.
Yeah.
So when is this?
So hopefully it's March 8th. Hopefully it's going to be like from 4 to 6. It is from 4 to 6, but that will give people a chance if they want to come and talk to me. But also, I mean, I was just at the leadership conference, which I'm going to return over there here as soon as we're finished. But I had someone say, I need to talk to you about something. So just being out, open, available, Facebook, that meet and greet.
So you have a Facebook page set up for your election campaign?
Do.
Okay, so look that up, guys, if you want to see. You put on, I suppose, your resume, in effect, and also what you want to see done and kind of thing. Burleson's facing a lot of issues, not of bad issues, but issues of a growing district. Do people talk to you about tax rates or their tax payment or anything like that? Or does that come up at all?
I see that posted
Mm-hmm.
about taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
About our tax rate, I know when the bond issue was before us, it was really a lot of conversation
Oh, yes.
about that. But I think that ultimately finances are important. Financial responsibility is important, especially if the economists that say, I know you're a history buff, so you see all these cycles up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And my minor's economics, so I do love economics.
Where'd you go to college?
Midwestern.
Midwestern. Okay. You know, I was going to guess that because
Yeah.
I think you one time said that, but
Yeah.
Midwestern, yeah. Okay.
So I watch the economics
Mm-hmm.
with fascinations as to what's going to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
if we are going to hit a recession in Q4 of this year or beginning of next year, we will need to really be watching our finances and our outflows and inflows and the different streams and cycles within the finances.
Well, one of the things that a lot of listeners, may not be aware of, not to be condescending, but they just think everything is basically what you have is, local funding and you get a big chunk from the state and that's your money. But what a lot of people don't realize is when the state says, here's your money and here's how you're going to spend it, you'll find that about 40% of your budget is off the table when it comes to adjustment or cuts. And so if you want to, lower the expense of the school or something like that, you're really dealing with a very narrow, or about 60%, and within that, the bulk of that is salaries. So it's a very difficult thing to cut a school budget. And so I've had this conversation multiple times with people over the years, and they just think, oh, BISD, just spendthrift. I'm like, no, you don't understand. The state and the feds ask so much more. You will remediate kids that failed the standard test. You will have every provision possible for special ed kids. Now, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying, but that is, that's the way it is.
Yeah. So when you don't have a lot of wiggle room, you have to make sure that the small amount you have is.
Well, and there's also the fact
used
that
well.
our property values are rising, and so by definition, you're going to be paying more, even if you cut the rates. I mean, I have this conversation with the city council people all the time. Hey, we cut the rates, but their taxes are still rising, and so. But you're right. I had Mr. Johnson on here a couple of weeks ago, and he has the same kind of feeling that what's coming. And
Ronnie?
Ronnie does. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so does Chris Fletcher, but Ronnie had talked more about it, I suppose. But it is going to be an impact. When we had that downturn in 2008, it hit us around 2009 and 10. And you talk about some serious times, some budget cutting. We're talking about maybe up to a third of our funding was going to be cut. We're talking about doing away with buses and almost every extracurricular you can think of, and it was a nightmare.
And you don't have much wiggle room.
No.
And that's when we were trying to raise funds for Project Celebration. So that was real fun. Yeah.
No doubt that's true.
Yeah.
Well, also you probably, if you're fortunate to be elected to the board, you'll be dealing with state elected officials. So what would you tell them? Give us more money? Yeah.
Well, what are our options? What can we do? How can we bring more revenue in? How do we do this? Because, I mean, ultimately, we all have to have revenue to survive. We all do. So what are our choices? If there's none over here, do we have any other entities that can partner up with us that might take a special, okay, you take this project over here, and would you fund this? Because I do think that businesses are willing to help and partner in certain instances. It's finding and connecting those bridges.
Well, I've talked to a couple of them before. I remember this young man may have graduated with your son, James, who's Rob Orr's son.
Yes, he did.
James Orr. And I was kidding around with him one time when Rob was our council member, or not council member, what I was saying, our representative.
Yes.
I said, oh, James, if your old man needs some straightening out, just have him call me. And about a month later, he did. And whoa, how about that? And so we talked about school. And it's not as easy as it sounds, like,
No.
just writing him a bigger check.
No.
So it was good education about, hey, you're not the only one asking for money. And so that kind of thing. So it was, and this was just before, I believe, everything started going to hell in a handbasket around here. So that was a tough 3 or 4 year period.
Yeah.
And sitting on the board, you'd be sitting right there getting it from all these people say, don't cut my program.
Yes.
You think
absolutely.
Could you do that?
It would not be that. It would be very difficult.
Yeah.
It'd be very difficult.
There'll be some sleepless nights, but
Yeah.
I guess if you're willing to run, you already have factored that in.
I'm already having sleepless nights.
Really? What's keeping you awake?
Well, I mean, it's a lot to think that these children, they're our future, they're our legacy, and to be responsible for that. If I'm elected or not, I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing, but that you could have an impact on the kids, the children, the parents. That's a lot to factor into if you're the type of person that's important to you. I wish it was important to everyone.
Right.
But to those that it is a big responsibility.
Yes, it is. And not everybody appreciates that. And some of those board meetings can get pretty tough. I've been in several of them over the years where you have that open mic time at the beginning, and what they're saying ain't going to pass for Psalms. And so, are you ready for that, you think?
I think that tough conversations are part of the job. It's certainly been with our organization. Our office products is really what's the bread of our company. So about 400 of us banded together as independent dealers years ago, and I served on that board for 3 years, and it was 3 really tough years because you have Staples, Amazon, Depot, and we're all independent dealerships. It was very hard, very, very hard those 3 years, looking at that budget and how are we going to make it. Very difficult conversations.
So you have experience in dealing with difficult issues.
We did.
That's good.
We actually ended up merging with another buying group. We did.
Well, that's good to know, because some people, I don't know if they really appreciate the entire scope of the job, because you're also going to have to be very active, not just on a board meeting on a Monday night, but you're going to have to go to visit schools, and you have to be at events. Yeah, I assume Rick is on board with all this. So
I did talk to him.
What did he say?
He said, "Yep, that's what you're called to do. You do it."
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
But it is going to be very time consuming. I have Victoria Johnson on here some, and she's running here, running there. She does a lot of stuff for the schools as well because of her children, and it's a full day. You have to be visible, and that's not always very easy sometimes, because you have your personal life to take care of.
That's true.
You have any grandchildren?
So, back to that question you asked me.
Okay, sorry.
No, I told you it's multidimensional. My oldest granddaughter is 5 now. She starts kindergarten in May.
Right.
Or, not in May, this fall. And to look at that and realize that she, in the next 20 years, will be out of BISD into the world.
Right.
What is she walking into here? And she'll tell me now, Dee Dee, I said, are you going to Hike Elementary? And she said, I'm going to Judy Hike Elementary.
Judy Hike, yeah.
And so excited and ready to go. Yes, it's a great inspiration.
Really?
To me.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good though, but so you do have connections with the school system, even if your sons have graduated, and obviously you got one with Jacob in summer.
Yeah.
But their children will be going to this school system eventually.
Yes. Well, my sons have said, you love our children more than you love us.
Well, that's what every grandparent does. Every grandparent dotes on their grandkids.
Do you have grandkids?
Not yet. No. My oldest is 30. My youngest is 27. I have a son and a daughter, and it's not happened yet. And I'm not pushing too hard for it yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I wish one day, I hope one day, but at their timing.
Exactly. Well, definitely you want it to be their timing.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's, it's good that you have these kind of connections with the school system, other than just, somebody that's interested in, but you have like, a personal, emotional connection to the school through your granddaughter and the others that are coming,
Yes. Well, I have I have 3 and a 4th on the way.
Yes, I remember reading about that. It's summer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and she posted something about that. Or
Yes, she did.
yeah, so I'm not breaking any secrets. It's on there out in the open.
Right, she did. She posted it.
It's Facebook official.
That's
so,
right.
So, but no, I'm glad to hear that because I think it's important that board members have, in some fashion, some sort of personal connection to the system, because
we have a vested interest.
Vested interest is and. To be really honest, over the 30-something years I've been involved in the school district, I could count maybe 2 or 3 people I thought did not belong on the school board. Mm-hmm. Most of the people that have been on the school board, I can honestly say, whether I agreed with their decisions or not, I could honestly say were there for the students and the teachers and the community. It's been a pretty good outfit for a long time.
I believe you're correct. Yeah.
You know, I mean, like I said, that didn't mean everything they did. I said, "Oh, that's a good idea." I thought, "Man, what's the matter with those people?" But, you know, Miss Eisner will tell you that we had a lot of conversations over the last 20 years, and so, but they're good people. So if you win, which I give you every chance and every best wish, I think
thank you.
You'll be surrounded with some experienced people that care.
I think you're right. I think that they do care.
And Jimerson again, did he do this decision A when I think he should have done B? No, but that's why he gets paid to make the decisions, and I think he's done really well for us.
I do too. I think Burleson is. I mean, I hear from people we're moving to Burleson for the school district.
Right. The real estate people will tell you that's the
yes,
first
I'm
thing
sure
they
Shandy would confirm that.
Oh, yeah, she has. Yeah. And also the police force is another thing that the police protection, the crime and all this. Burleson is seen as a town that, has crime, but it has a force that'll take care of it as opposed to not. So, but anyway, I'm off the track on that too. But anyway, I'm coming down to the end here. So, in the last few minutes, you just tell us anything you want us to know.
Okay. I brought something.
Oh, you did.
I like visuals. I'm a visual learner.
Well, okay. As far as like the Apple and Spotify, I don't think they're going to get it. But but Facebook and YouTube will have it. So if you hold it up there you are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here you go.
Spiral notebook.
Yeah.
Spiral notebook.
Looks like a well-used one.
Very well used.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking into 9th grade, and we just talked about tough age time.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, "Oh my gosh, no one wants Mr. Peril for algebra. No one wants Mr. Peril for algebra." And we walk in, they said, "He's so hard. And who do I get for algebra?"
Of course.
Mr. Peril.
Mm-hmm.
We walk in those first few days, he says, "You get a spiral notebook. If you take notes, I mean copious notes, not just every now and then, but if you take the notes, these notes will be good enough that you can tutor algebra if you decide to go to college."
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward through high school, junior in college, they say, "Would you tutor an algebra class for us?"
Mm-hmm.
So I literally take my notebook into the tutoring lab with me. Wow. He changed my life. He was very, very hard. Oh my goodness. If someone would tell me I would have had to have gone through that, I wouldn't have done it because it was a tough class. But it impacted me profoundly. And I think teachers do that. They can do that. So, and I'm sure that you've done that, Mr. Allard.
Well,
I know
like
that you have.
Well, that's very kind of you. I appreciate that. I'm thinking of some teachers in my past, Mr. Floyd, my social studies teacher at my 11th grade year, or Mr. Brown, a math teacher, and I didn't care for math at all. Mr. Horton, another math teacher. I've memories the same as you, and they really were instructive people in my life. You kept that all these years, huh?
Well, this is the one I use for work because I still take copious notes.
Mm-hmm.
But I tried to find that spiral, but I don't know where it is. And I actually tried to find Mr. Peril years ago. I could not.
Well, in my case, a couple of mine have gone to the reward, as they say, because I'm, 61 years old. I graduated 42 years ago, and Mr. Horton was already in his 60s. So unless he's really, really in good shape or something, he's with the choir eternal, as we call it.
I think Mr. Peril is there also.
Yeah, and so, but see, that's a good motivation for running because you want that for your grandchildren.
I definitely do.
Yeah, and elementary teachers really do make an impact. Yeah, particularly, I couldn't teach elementary for nothing.
Patience. They must have such great patience.
Yes, I couldn't do it. But anyway, I appreciate what you're doing. The community appreciates what you're doing. We're very pleased to see this kind of race because it's one of those things that at the end BISD is going to benefit from, and the parents are going to benefit from, the kids are going to benefit from, and so it's a tough choice, but I wish you well, and
Thank you.
I hope if you do succeed that you come back on the show. You're welcome to come back before the election as well. You could set up a time afterwards. I don't want to pin you down to a date, but you're welcome for a return visit before, I forget the day in May. It's the first Saturday in May.
May 6th.
May 6th, okay. You're more than welcome to come back for a return visit, and I hope you do so. Thank you, Taylor, for everything. We hope...
As always.
On Thursday, I may have a guest, but if not, I have a couple of topics I'd like to talk about, so we'll see if that guest comes through or not. So I'll
Thank
see
you, Mr.
then.
Allard.
You betcha.
Thank you, Taylor.
All right.
Of course.